So let me just start today talking a little bit of my journey, a journey that I will go back to when I was 19 years old. To most of you, that's not very long ago, but to me, it was a little bit long ago. It was a time when I was just enlisted in the army, and I was one of those few that was selected to go OCS. It was a period where, to most 19-year-old, it was difficult because you're going to the army and leaving home. But for me, it was a little bit more difficult because the only breadwinner, the sole breadwinner for my family, my father, just had a heart attack just before my A-levels. So I was facing a situation where I don't really know how am I going to ever get my education after the army. And I still have to go through the army. So when I was in OCS, we had this $350 per month salary. And I really thought to myself, I got to pass and pass out as an officer. $350 means I will not depend on my allowance from my parents. So I went on, and the journey started. It was a very dark period as far as I was concerned, but not one where I feel down in the sense that I thought I'm not going to actually get out of a situation. In fact, I thought I was going to be quite good because I got 3 older sisters. I came from a family of the only son and the youngest. And my sisters were there when I was still serving in the army. And I was thinking to myself, how am I just going to go through OCS? Well, the truth of the matter, I wasn't the strongest, nor was I the fittest. But I found inner strength during that period of time when I was going through the toughest training in my life. Now, that inner strength sort of like encouraged me to move on. And thankfully, I did not just graduate. I actually graduated top of my class and was a SWOT winner. And at least I got my salary, that $350 sort of assured for my allowance in the next few months. On top of it, I basically went through a financial situation in the crisis of a dark period thinking that, okay, what's next? Thankfully, because of what I did in OCS, I actually was awarded a scholarship. And it was to study economics, political science, and philosophy in National University. And I thought, okay, now I'm going to be on a boat, and I'm going to be set for the sunset, right? Sail towards the sunset. So this is where situations like this happens when just when I thought I was going to start a career in the military, got a scholarship, I was going to go and basically serve it out. In university, in aircon room, I developed a chronic disease. It was chronic eczema, a skin disorder. And I couldn't become an officer in the field anymore. Now, I signed up to become a field officer, but I couldn't become a field officer. Now, straight away, I went into a career decision. What am I going to do? First, I have a financial crisis to actually overcome. I overcame it. Then I go into a situation, I have to make a career decision. I didn't sign up to be a desk-bound officer. So the next problem I have to say is, if I were to break my bond, that's going to cost hundreds of thousands, and it's going to make the whole family worried. So everybody around me was saying, Gary, you got to think about this, right? You should just serve it out. Don't put ourselves and the family into a financial difficulty. But I made a decision. The decision was to provide for the family, right? So sometimes in life, education can be very expensive. And in my case, breaking the bond was a very expensive decision. But I did it. So there I go. I went on, left, made a career switch, and started a career in finance. And then where did I go? First job, I applied. It was into Shanghai. Now it's not a Shanghai that you know. The Shanghai that I knew was a very different Shanghai, 1993. So it was a hardship post, 2 years as a venture capital, right? Starting a career with a financial burden at the back of it, breaking a bond, and knowing that I have actually financial obligations. But that journey was not so bad because I then went on to an international bank, became a banker for the regional markets, met my wife there too. And then I moved on a couple of years later to a local stockbroking firm and stayed there for 10 years. Now, in that 10 years, I made a couple of lucky investments and managed to basically pay off all of your obligations and eventually set up my own private equity firm. Now, the journey sounds like, well, one thing led to another, from that 19-year-old boy who wasn't sure about whether he's going to get the money to go for his education, to someone who set up his own private equity firm. I said, well, this should be easy now, all right? I'm with a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids. I'm on a cruise ship, and this time I'm now going to be setting off for the sunset. But the truth of the matter is, something happens in the deals that we go in. After setting up the private equity firm, we went into a deal that it went south very quickly. That means something went wrong. Whatever due diligence that we did, whatever the numbers, whatever the things that we did, it all went wrong. And then I was faced in a situation where I'm saying, no, I can't let the ship go down. This was my Titanic moment. And to me, it was a Herculean task to transform this company because a company was just on the brink of bankruptcy, 1 week before it was bankrupt. So I said, look, if all these things are so bad, then what do I have to do? Well, I guess I have no choice. I have to jump into the trenches and turn this company around. So from an owner of a private equity firm, now I went into a company called Sun Moon, and I became a fruit seller. And I started to look after plantations and started to actually look after fruits and trying to sell fruits to the rest of the world. But what do I know about fruits? Well, very little, except an apple grown on a tree. That's as close as I can talk about. But it goes on to the situation where I had to do some things. The first 2 years of going into this company, I had to write off $100 million. I didn't make $100 million. I had to write off $100 million. I had to then shut down factories the size of what I called the Forbidden City. It was 1,900 hectares of plantations, 40,000 tons of cold room, and laid off people that were workers from a 500 strength to the current strength of 50. So we managed to get the company up on its feet, and we started to go into a EBITDA positive, and we thought we got the debt out. Just when I thought I got the company clean and we were doing the right things, I decided that no, we have to really now face the final hurdle and the demons inside it. What was supposed to be a syndicated deal of people who come in to rescue the company became the crisis in itself. So what happened? This time, we now had to go in and clean up the company from the outside. And for First Everstone, we had to come in to actually get the original investors out and put in more of our monies into this. Now, going through all that difficult period, all I got was people saying, Gary, why do you do this? What was this about? Well, I guess to me, what was strange is that when something is important, even if the odds was against and it's not in my favor, I just thought about what I had to do, and I thought that was the right thing to do. So it comes to a point where you just ask yourself, did I wake up from the very beginning when I was 19 years old, I decided that I was going to be bold and I was going to think differently? Well, the truth of the matter was I never really wanted to do anything. I just sort of like got into a situation after a situation, and every single time I felt that I had to be bold. I had no choice but to think differently. And this is where it got me to where I am. So when I mentioned a little bit to my friends and they said, you mentioned a little bit of this inner feelings, inner strength. What is that all about? So, the academics have actually done a bit of research and they call it grit. Well, grit is actually a lot of words to describe a feeling about inner strength. Courage, bravery, passion, perseverance, resilient, a lot of words. Right? So for me, grit was something that I actually think, yes, that was really something that I drew a lot of my inner strength to basically face the difficulties that I was facing. So it could be difficulties, it could be adversities, it could be failures, but it sort of helped me got along myself. But this then leads to a really good quote by Angela Duckworth in her book, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. Now, if you take life as one where you are living life as a marathon and not a sprint, then everything that's going on in your life actually won't look so bad if you think of it that it's just the bumps that goes along the way. Failures, adversities, and difficulties do not define us. It's what we do with them that's going to define what we're going to actually achieve. So when I talk about passion and I talk about perseverance, I got this think about, so how do we build perseverance, right? And I just sort of like say to the young generations, actually now, it's kind of more difficult for you guys because, you know, you got everything, instant gratification is the world that you guys live in now. You got Amazon, you get shopping online, you get video on demand, you got knowledge on demand, you can even have a date on demand, you know? So that's kind of like the world that you do. And the only perseverance that I really see is when people queue up for that one Michelin star noodle, you know, and that favorite bubble tea. I mean, wow, that's, okay, look, that's better than nothing. So the perseverance is there. So perseverance must come from something that I think builds from purpose, right? For me, my purpose for my family, my sisters, you know, my kids, my wife, those were the purpose that drives me. So for perseverance, there must be something that you must be thinking about. What is the purpose? And once you get your purpose clear, things sort of like sort itself out. Then when we talk about passion, people think, oh, you got to be passionate. Gary, you sound like a passionate guy. But passion is not about doing things that I like every day. In fact, it's about doing the things that I don't like every day and still be passionate about it. So where do I build passion, or where do I stop to think about it? I realize that actually passion is about liking the objectives and the goals at the end, but doing the difficult things and having the belief that you're doing the right thing. And even when you're wrong, sometimes the failures along the ways and the difficulties that you face is going to sort of set you back to the directions that you set out, and that belief will come back. Having said what I talked about, perseverance and passion, I wanted to talk a little bit on mindfulness. Because along the way of my own little journey, mindfulness was something that I was about conscious living. It's about appreciating the situation. It's about knowing the little things that actually you should be appreciating, that when you wake up in the morning, that you're fine, that there are people around you, the people who are supporting you, and the purpose that you do. That to me was what I called mindfulness. And during the time when I was going through a financial crisis that I was talking about in the restructuring, it looks okay from the outside, but I can tell you in the inside it was tough. I woke up in one of the mornings feeling sick in the tummy, the feeling of anxiety, the feeling of fear, you know, the things that sort of like everything, the dark moments that I actually felt. And in my original first slide, it was only in darkness that you can actually see the stars. It's really something that actually I keep drawing that strength from. So for me, mindfulness was a time where I had to go to my study, sat down for 5 minutes, and actually calm myself down. And it was during those periods of calmness that it sort of gave me the clarity that I need. So being mindful allows me to actually draw what I thought was very illuminating, very empowering, and it provides me clarity. The clarity to understand purpose and the understanding of belief. So one of the things that I always wanted to share with you all is that everyone can talk about, you must have grit to actually succeed. You really must have passion. You really must persevere. But if you do not be mindful of the journey and who is with you in the journey, the people who supported you in the journey, I think I would have lost the journey and the joy that actually my journey, because a lot of people could have actually seen the negatives, but I only saw the positive. So being mindful of the positive will lead us to have the right mindset. You can't start from the beginning to say, I want to have a bold mindset and I'm going to start the mindset of being different. You got to actually think about it from yourself. You got to start from yourself. And then the mindset will come. And then grit, where you build perseverance, where you build passion, and plus mindfulness and the appreciation of the people and the situation around you, I am sure all of us will achieve the goals that we want to achieve, the things we want to do for the people around us. So, thank you very much.